Hi, I'm Pam. I did the workshop on Saturday on Lapbooking 101, and I just wanted to do a quick follow-up video. If you're like me, you go to a conference or a convention or retreat or some kind of event and you're ready, especially a homeschooling event, you're ready to kind of jump into what you've learned and or maybe or what you've purchased. And I was going to do this video over the weekend. I thought, let me just jump on. My kids are quietly doing their school. Look, see? And the other two are outside on the trampoline. So I thought I'm going to take a few minutes while it's somewhat quiet to just quickly go over what I shared on Saturday in Lapbooking. Again, this is just a quick tutorial. Even Saturday was very quick. And I shared some books by Diana Zykes. I have a lot right here. Oh no, it's not that. But she has like the big book of activities, and her name is Zike, and I bought these probably, my oldest is 17, so probably like 10 years ago at least. And they're just great books, and they have a lot of the different folds, and it's full of ideas, and I pass these around. This one's on social studies, and then I have one here on math. So you want to get some of those reference books maybe on Amazon. I'm not sure if they're still in print, but they're good reference books. But the, let me see what my notes here. Oh, so I want to go back over supplies. What is it that you need to do your lap book with? So you want to have paper, white paper, color paper. You know, buy a ream of paper, maybe a ream of white, a ream of multicolored paper, so that you have plenty of paper on hand. Then, of course, you want file folders. You can have white file or manila file folders. You can get color file folders. I just grabbed what I had in the house. Your bag of supplies, I have tape and markers and glue sticks. I like to keep all these things together. I would get double-sided tape as well as just the regular one-sided tape. So you have all your little lapbooking supplies, scissors. And then last, and this is very important, and I remember Emberlick mentioned a really good point. One thing that she didn't quite get when she was doing hers, and that's waiting to assemble to the end. And the way you want to store it is in a Ziploc bag. This is a one of the big bags, the grand bags, the large bags. I like these. They have handles on them. So this is what you're going to store all your folds in. As I mentioned, you're going to store your folds. So you can use a smaller Ziploc bag, but if you're teaching multiple kids at one time, and I'm teaching kindergarten all the way through high school, it's really nice to have a really big bag and to keep all the folds. And what I'll do is I will store each of the individual folds in their folder just to keep them from getting all crumbled up. And then I'll stick all the folders in the oversized Ziploc bag. Okay, so we're going to review the basic folds. Angela, bless her heart, was looking at me like, you know, she was just feeling a little overwhelmed, and because we were going at like such a fast pace. But I wanted to review just 2 basic folds, and from that we'll be able to do a whole lot of stuff. So you're going to take a blank piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. Our first fold we did was the hamburger fold. So we're going to hold it up, portrait. We have portrait and then we have landscape. So we're going to hold it portrait, and we're just going to fold one over to the other. Let me move this out the way so you can see the contrast on my kitchen table. I should probably take this down a bit. And that is simply our hamburger fold. Okay, our hamburger fold. And we can do a lot of really neat things with this. This is what it looks like. And I'm going to show you some cuts on that. So I'll just put this here for now because we're going to use this in a second. And then our second fold, so from going from portrait to landscape, and now we'll fold this one over, hot dog fold. So this is our second fold. Okay, so we've got our hamburger and our hot dog. All right, I'm just going to put these to the side. Again, I talked about how information comes in 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 10s. You know, it comes in multiples. And when you begin to think that way, it's going to be so easy to think through your folds and to build your lap book. So you're going to just really change the way you think and not just think. It's a great way to think graphically and to organize your thoughts, okay? So the first thing you want to do to decide what your folds are going to be, you want to look at your curriculum. I purchased Belinda's curriculum, and this is part of the reason why I'm starting thinking and organizing today. And I thought I'm going to walk you through my thinking process, and I'll probably upload some videos as the kids and I work through this. But I bought several of her books, and the one we're starting with as a family is the Primary Level Volume 2, Using Literature to Weave the African American Presence into the Fabric of American History, 1866 to present. And I just wanted to start with this time period because I realized there's a lot I really haven't done with my oldest, who's a senior. And so I thought, I'm going to start there and we're going to move forward using her curriculum. Now I chose primary. I purposely chose the lowest level because I want to kind of teach mid-range. I'm going to add a little bit more to his, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then my youngest, my 5-year-old, will do a little bit less. But at the end of it, we're all learning the same thing. This is something we'll do a couple times a week. And again, I'm going to gather all those folds, stick them in the bag until we are ready to assemble our lap books. So this is Belinda's curriculum, and already I just have Post-it notes. I just bought some Post-its. And I do this with every curriculum. Not every curriculum. Anytime I'm going to do a unit study or I'm going to build a lap book. Let me back up. So every time I'm going to build a lap book, I do this. So I just start here. I go through on lesson 1. I read through it, and I start to think, how is this presented? Is it in 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s? So for instance, Finding Our Place, Primary Learning Topics, The Role of African Americans in Westward Expansion. And there's a book I have to go get from the library. I haven't gotten the book yet. I have it on hold, so I just have to go pick it up. African Americans in the Old West. From that book, okay, she has 3 books in this unit. Booker T. Washington and then W.E.B. Du Bois. From these 3, these tabs right here, and this is just the first unit. We're going to walk away with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tabs. Plus, we're going to do a timeline throughout this entire book. So I'll probably do the timeline on a separate video. But in the front, she has a really nice timeline. She did all the work for us, which is nice as a mom. So she has a timeline at the beginning of her book, and there are folds for that, accordion folds, which is a modification on the hamburger. And on Saturday we did the matchbook. If you remember that matchbook, where it was a shorter, just let the phone, just let the machine pick up. Not unless it's Dad. Can you see if it's Dad? Thank you, babe. And if it's Dad, I can't talk right now, so don't pick up. Is it Dad? Okay, alrighty. So anyway, it's a modification on the matchbook. But anyway, I'll do that in a separate video for timelines, because timelines are really fun, and you want to keep that timeline going throughout your entire unit so kids can get a sense of where something happened. Is it closer to here or more out here in history? Is it major? Is it important? Oh, okay. He's working on the back door today. Look at the door. Okay, then work done on our back door. Okay, so with Belinda's book, lesson. This is exactly what I'm doing, and this is what I purchased on Saturday. Okay, with her 3 beautiful babies there by Belinda. So if you haven't purchased it, go ahead and purchase it now. And I'm just gonna walk you through what I'm doing, and again, you may get something else out of it. So with anytime we do a book, there are always words that we don't know, and this is a way to build our vocabulary. So we're going to do a vocabulary fold. So if you remember, we did this on Saturday. So what you want to do is simply take your hot dog fold, and where are my scissors? And depending upon the number of vocabulary words that we have in the book, or words that I want them to learn, that's how many slits we're going to cut, and we're going to stop right at the fold. Okay, so I'm just going to cut so you can see. I should make them really big for the sake of time. And it's good to do this with every book. One thing I mentioned is there are a couple of reasons why you want to do all your folds first and your assembly last. Again, number 1, Imberlake pointed out that if you're trying to assemble and create folds at the same time, you're not going to have a really good idea of layout. What's going to happen is you're going to start placing stuff, and then you're going to have things, and because you've already started gluing and assembling, you're not going to have it laid out, and it's fun to lay it out. The other reason that I like is the more your kids handle the information, the more they're going to learn it. So the first time you're doing it, maybe when you're reading the book together, you're discussing it, the topic, so they hear it the first time. Now they're writing it, they're gluing it, they're taping it, they're coloring it. They're working through it in the book. That's two. And then the third time is when you're assembling it in your actual file folder. One thing I didn't mention, I know I did mention on Saturday, the word Lapbook was actually coined by Tammy Duby, D-U-B-Y, of Tobin Labs. And she basically wanted a way to take all of Diana Zyke's folds and to put them in a one place, a file folder, and a nice presentation for her children as they begin to work through different units. So I think it's important to give credit where credit's due. So that's the history of the word Lapbook, Tammy Duby. And actually years ago, it was just such a blessing. I was able to sit in a workshop with her. It was like a 2-3 hour workshop. And when she walked us through how to do this, she came to our little itty bitty state of Delaware and did a workshop back when she was homeschooling. So that was a huge blessing. So this is your vocabulary. So you'll put maybe the word. I'm trying to think. I don't know what one of the words for westward expansion could be. I don't have the book, but if I had the book, it could be something. I'm just gonna make something up like cowboy. So maybe cowboy is here, and then the word here, and then they put their definition on the inside. And so you'll do that. So this is basically, again, I'll turn it this way so it's not cut. It's a hot dog fold, and we cut the slits for our vocab words, okay? Then the next thing, and again, I just put tabs. I don't like writing in my book, my lesson plans and all that, but I'll just use this little sticky tabs as I'm kind of reading through it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. So I have 4 things that I'm basically going to do as a result of just this one page. The next thing we want to do, because she later in her lesson, she talks about an activity for an older child and the younger child. So based on this activity, we're going to do a compare and contrast the treatment of African Americans and Native Americans during the territorial expansion, during westward expansion. Because a lot of times we hear about Native Americans, and I never thought, honestly, we have not studied African Americans in the westward expansion until I bought this book. So I was like, oh, this is so good. So I'm really excited to jump into Belinda's curriculum. So compare and contrast for this one. So now we have one nice little fold. That'll go in my baggie. This one we're using the hamburger fold, that we just folded right over. And I'm going to maybe turn this down so you can see it a bit. So compare and contrast. I like doing this, and again, this information is in 2s, okay? So I'm going to make 2 giant bubbles. I'm doing a Venn diagram. We've all done Venn diagrams, right? So in our Venn diagram, we have what's here, what's unique here, and then anything in the middle, it's what's common to both of these. So this is going to be our compare and contrast for Native Americans and African Americans during westward expansion. So with this hamburger fold, I'm just going to cut right up the middle where it's common. Where it intersects, okay? And so here we may do and again, they can write it, they can color it, whatever they want to do. So African Americans and Native Americans. Okay? Alrighty. Sorry about that. Okay, so African Americans and Native Americans. So we're going to write down everything we want to learn here, and then where are some areas where they're common. And again, I thought about this. This was so good. After Belinda's talk at the conference, when she talked about history from the perspective of developing world changers, and not just teaching just black history, but having an inclusive curriculum that included Native Americans, Asians, Asian Americans, Mexicans, Latinos, Hispanics, and so I thought this was a really good way to reinforce that, to see what are the roles others played in westward expansion. So that's fold number 2. So we got the vocab and we got that. And now the next thing, we're going to go down and if I could read my writing, Oh, yes, yes, yes. Then she has here, for an older child, complete a report on Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, focusing on the difference in their philosophies or on the best method to advance the African American post slavery. Okay, so again, with differences, we could do another fold like this, or what I thought of was the trifold, which is just folding it in thirds, kind of like a travel brochure, like this. And we're going to use this actually for a couple of them. Okay. So I'm going to explain a couple tabs I have here. So my oldest, my son is going to do this activity, focusing more on debating and their philosophy. So, oh, that's probably, can you get the door? Mm-hmm. I may have to pause my video. He's just going to come through the back, so he can just go through the back. So on this one, I may have to pause this. Let me pause it. We have a contractor come do some work in the house.